Grand Rising Farm. Hope you're all doing okay. Hope everything is fine and your day is going as planned. This is Decimus, and you are welcome to the channel of truth, enlightenment, freedom, and the channel of breaking empires free. If you are new on this channel, I talk about narcissism and narcissistic abuse. I talk about spirituality. I talk about personal and self-development. And if that's what resonates with you, I invite you all to join us. Please give us a like, share the video with friends, and you may subscribe if you haven't already. And for those that have always been with us, you are welcome back, and I thank you for your love and support. Spiritual awakening, the stages. I cannot confirm if for everybody is going to be the same pattern. Some things may happen before the other ones, but either way, if you are fully awakened, there will be things that will surely manifest in your life. First of all, let me even say this before I continue. When you're chosen, spiritual awakening is inevitable. If you are a chosen one, your spiritual awakening is inevitable. The truth will meet you, or you might meet the truth somewhere along your journey, and there's going to be a trigger that will make you wake up. Number one, we are going to talk about the switch. So the switch, that is the beginning of everything. The turning point is like you have been in a very dark room. You couldn't see what was going on. You couldn't see where the light was, and something just happens, pop. And you have a moment that triggers you to awaken. And from that point forwards, I can promise you, ladies and gentlemen, there's no going back. It doesn't matter what you want to do, how you want to think about it, there's no going back. From that point forwards, things are going to continue changing around you. And it's going to be out of your control. Spiritual awakening is a divine intervention. You could awaken, for example, and your trigger could be a very long illness that nearly cost you your life. Your trigger may come from the loss of a loved one. Your grandmother passes, an auntie passes, maybe a child, somebody that is really, really close to you and they mean a lot to you. They could pass. And something is going to trigger your spirit to awaken. In my own case scenario, my switch, the trigger was realizing that I was involved with a narcissist. I woke up one day and there was one word that I came across, narcissism. That word sent me into shock. So that was a video by Queen Holiday. I was just scrolling there looking for answers, relationships, what do I do, and blah, blah. I was going through the devaluation stage. And then one video, tap. This man explained to me everything in detail. And I was like, okay, now I get it. That triggered my awakening to happen. I've done a whole video on how I woke up, that particular moment when I woke up, and I called it the switch. The whole video is called, I did a whole video on the switch. So it's like the lights just go on. You're in a dark place, somebody comes and switches on the light, and eventually you can now see everything that has been going on in the room. That is the switch. After that, you're going to go through a long process of mourning. Mourning is where you are trying to get closure. You are trying to understand what exactly is going on, what has been happening, what has happened. You are trying to make sense of everything. You're adding all the dots, you're putting the puzzle together. And at the same time, you're mourning that loss. It's been a very difficult situation, experience, very traumatic as well. So you're mourning that incident, whatever it is that has triggered you to wake up. So you're mourning, you're grieving, you're throwing plates around, you're crying, you lock yourself in the room, you're isolated, you're doing so many things, but it's a mourning process. And that process is actually very painful. That process is the one that actually happens as soon as you wake up. The grieving, the mourning process. Then eventually, after that, you come to the acceptance. Okay, when the mourning has happened, I don't know exactly how long your mourning may take. For me, it was a couple of months. And then your soul starts to release. You start to close down the whole thing, closure. You start to accept. You say, okay, this is what it was. I understand. Okay, this is what happened. And you are accepting that reality, because you see, one of the things that many people struggle with is to accept a situation. If it's dangerous or bad or toxic, they may fight around with it. They may gaslight themselves, or maybe they didn't see properly, maybe this and that. Now you're accepting this whole thing. And you release the whole thing, you let it go. And you're moving now to embody your new reality. In that new reality now, you start to experience the whole crumbling of your old life. So everything that seemed familiar to you, seemed comfortable to you, family members, relatives, your hobbies, the food you used to eat, the activities you used to engage, everything no longer makes sense. You're now starting to release the energy. You're letting it go. So basically what is really happening at that time, you now have, it's like a second loss where you are now starting to lose. Your old life is falling apart, okay? You're losing interest in everything. You're losing interest in your friends. You're losing interest in, if you've been in a toxic family situation, you're losing interest in everything. Everything is just, you're losing everything. Everything just falls away. Your old life falls apart and it feels like it's out of your hands. It's nothing you can control. It is just happening magically. You don't know what to do. When that loss happens, you could now go through the dark night of the soul. The dark night of the soul, that is the name that they have given it. So that is when you're sitting down with yourself, you're understanding what needs to be healed, you're understanding your shadow side, you're understanding. That's why a lot of other people start to do the shadow work, start to work on their own habits, their old reality that wasn't making any sense. They are going within and they are starting to work on this thing one by one. Okay, that is the dark night of the soul, and it's also a very, very dark period as well, where you are forced, because you see, now you have lost everything. You're now starting to realize what it is you need to work on. Your fears, your insecurities, low self-esteem, everything is coming out to the surface. There is no noise to distract you. So you're in silence. And in that dark night of the soul, it goes hand in hand with isolation. Because during the dark night of the soul, while you are forced to look within you to understand the shift, what exactly do you need to change? You are in silence. There's nobody around you. There's no noise. The only thing you can hear is the voice from God, your intuition, your higher self. Let's work on this. Let's work on that. It's lonely, painful, hard, and lonely. That dark night of the soul, many people spend a lot of years in that period. There's no particular moment you say that, okay, I'm going to spend this period took me 1 month. This period took me 2 months. Everybody is going to be different because we have all been walking different journeys. So for everybody, it's going to be different. But eventually, you're realizing you're alone and you're working on a lot of things. Some people can even talk about 2 years. They've been in the dark night of the soul for 2 years. They have been shading away. Their old self has been falling apart. And they are working on themselves. They are doing shadow work. And it takes a very long time. Now, when you have eventually done that process, gone through the process of that dark night of the soul, you now have this void. There is that emptiness. So this is like, there is everything that used to be around you that you knew was familiar, everything is gone. At least we could say 80% of it or 90% of it is gone. You no longer recognize your older self. But at the same time, you haven't yet fully stepped into the newer version of you. So you're in the void. You can hear the noise from the background. You don't want to go back. But you feel a calling towards the future, your future self, and you don't yet know what it is. Now you have the void, the silence. Nothing is happening. Loss of direction. Do I go back to my older self? Do I go back to sleep? Or do I carry on and find my spark? A new one, at least, for this matter. And eventually, that period also can take some time. It could be a couple of months. Now it is in the void where you start to recreate yourself. That is where you get a spark. Your intuition is loud, speaking to you. Let us go this direction. Let us try something else. Let us try something new. And eventually, you now start climbing out from that void and finding a new spark within you. Now you get into creation. When I was going through that void, the stage of the void, that is around that moment I started to create videos. I was like, let me just, find something about doing videos. I started doing a little bit of research. I had a little camera at the time. One video after another one. It wasn't making any sense. I didn't really know if that is what I wanted to do. It wasn't like all kind of like, I couldn't get the whole picture, but still I was kind of like, I'm gonna try that. Maybe it's gonna work, you never know. So, I picked up my equipment and then eventually I started creating one by one, video after video. And now the channel was born. Now, in that process, when you're creating and learning new things, because in that void, it can actually activate you or trigger you to start creating something new, recreate if you've already been, or create something new, enhance everything that you want to build. If it has already been a craft you have been working on, you enhance that craft. You're doing a lot of things. You are stepping into this newer version of you. In that same time, you're also getting too enlightened, because now you're starting to see the universe is starting to bring to you the teachers. That's when the masters are starting to walk in. The masters are walking in. Now you're running into people. Maybe you may get insights from different types of books, learning about your spirituality, learning this and that. You're getting more and more enlightened eventually. And of course, the end result is going to be full enlightenment. But that stage, it takes a lot of time. So for a person who has gone through a spiritual awakening for this matter, there have been a lot of stages, transformations, and energy shifts that have been going through. And that whole process from the point of awakening to full enlightenment, it can take a very long time. But of course, somewhere along your journey, you might also get an awareness about gang stalking, because when you awaken, your lights go on. You will start being gang stalked in this matrix. The gang stalkers just start popping out of nowhere. You don't know how they appear, where they came from. They are starting to harass you, what this and that, push you, your left and right, making you paranoid, intimidating you, and all this kind of stuff. They cannot go very far. It depends on how much energy you give them. So that's one of the stages as well, the gang stalking, and we shall have a whole video on that as well. And then of course, finally, there's full enlightenment, where you fully step into the newer version of you. So for the people who have been around you and who recognize the older version of you, that is the time when they can no longer recognize you. The moment they meet you along your journey, maybe you run into them or they run into you, either way, that is when they are going to realize your entire identity has shifted. So that person they used to know, that older version of you they used to know many years ago, no longer exists. That person is dead, buried, gone. You are fully embodied the newer version of you, and that is a version they completely do not recognize. Even most of them are going to feel like you're unrelatable. They can no longer talk to you, they can no longer communicate to you, because the entire DNA and signature has completely shifted. Now you are embodying your truest, most authentic frequency. Those are the stages of spiritual awakening. I'm sure that many of you guys resonate. Let us know what you think. You guys know I do love and appreciate your support. Please book a session if you want to. You may donate. or support my channel if you want to. Everything you need, you will find it in the description below. And until then, I will see you guys in my next one. Nikymus signing out. Much love and blessings. Peace.